So this video is a little bit long, but I'll kind of go through what each exercise is. So I'm starting with upper body. We've just got overhead reaching, working the shoulders and putting constant outward tension on the band. You should feel it in your shoulders, keeping the ribs down and preventing your back from arching too much. Next, I show just a little rear delt work, pulling the band apart, whether that's straight across or at a diagonal, kind of to change things up. You can choose either one of these ways to work your shoulders or all three, doing sets of 10 to 15 or just going until you feel the burn. This is a variation on an overhead press, so you anchor the band down low, kind of at your xiphoid, and then press from there. You can also reverse it and make it a row for the lower arm, or kind of like a lat pull down, but you got to stay strong in that upper arm through the shoulder. Press that band into the ceiling. From there, I'm stabilizing with my left hand, anchoring the band and doing kind of like a lower trap exercise or a straight arm pull down. If I bend at the elbow, anchor the band to my chest and keep my elbow close to my body, I turn it into a tricep extension, and I can play with my hand placement, palm up or palm down. So now we're figuring out an overhead tricep press. Look how this goes. Reach behind the back with one arm, anchor it down on the mid back, and then press straight up, extend that elbow and lock it out at the top. That's kind of an overhead tricep press variation. Again, don't let the back arch too much. Try and keep the ribs down. Next, for some shoulder external rotation, I'm just kind of looping the band around my hand so that it stays put, keeping my elbows really close to my body and just rotating my hands out. I should feel it in my rotators rather than the muscles that pull my arms away from my body. Another rowing variation, this is called an archer row. So I'm anchoring my hand forward and then just pulling back, kind of elbowing straight behind me with my backhand, and I looped it around my hand to give me some more tension. Usually your eyes want to stay forward on that forward hand. Try to keep your gaze ahead. Then this is just a lateral raise variation. I'm just pulling the band straight out to the side to work my shoulders. One of my favorite exercises. Make sure you're bracing the core, and that arm that's anchoring the band is working almost just as hard as the arm that's moving. So now you can actually do any of the prior exercises in a wall sit position, and it'll just add to your workout and your overall calorie expenditure. Here's a bicep curl variation. I looped it around my leg to get the right amount of tension. Here I'm just doing some hip abduction. You can't really see my foot placement, but it's a little bit narrower than hip width apart, and I'm just working my lateral glutes while I'm in a wall sit position. So after a few of these, you should start to feel a nice burn. Next, good old monster walks. I start with a lateral monster walk. I keep my torso very upright. I try not to tip my body side to side as I take those steps. You could also do forward and backward monster walks. I like the zigzag pattern as I'm showing here. Sorry you can't see my feet too much. And then this is one that's a little bit more challenging. You have to balance on one leg and then do the hip abduction from there. This is a really good exercise, especially if you're increasing your running volume. This is good for those hip stabilizers that are probably getting overworked with increased running volume. So now down on the mat, there are quite a few exercises you can do. I show a couple here in a plank position, mostly for shoulder stabilization. So walking from side to side with nice control, trying to minimize any hip movement, keeping a nice strong plank position. And you can also do a hold with one arm and then a three-way reach. So I'm reaching forward, I'm reaching to the side, and I'm reaching back. And I should feel that with both of my shoulders. I'm really pushing the ground away from me with my right shoulder in this one so that I'm not hanging on my ligaments, so that my muscles are supporting me. Here's a good old clamshell exercise. Again, really good exercise for making sure that those hip rotators or those lateral glutes are getting enough strength work during this time. Again, really good for if you're upping the running volume. And this is just a straight leg abduction. From there, we have a good amount of bridging variations. So just a regular bridge with the band above the knees to kind of have some feedback to push our knees out. Again, you can just go for straight abduction with your hips on the floor or your hips up toward the ceiling. Single leg is going to be a little bit more advanced. I'm pulling my right leg against that band and really pressing through my left heel to feel it only in my left glute. If you feel pretty stable with these and you want to increase the challenge, you can clasp your hands up toward the ceiling so that they're not supporting you on the ground. Here's a nice dead bug variation. You can add the resistance at the hands like I'm doing here by roping the band around my wrist, or you can put it around the knees like before to give your legs some extra resistance, or you can do both if you have more than one band. All right, some lower body work here. I kind of use my couch to do some, these are called reverse hypers usually, but I go from the floor as high as I can lift my legs using only my glutes. I'm not arching at the back too much. All the work should be at the glutes. And then these are just some single leg variations. My knees stay relatively straight with that exercise, as opposed to this one, my knees are bending. This is to really fire up the hamstrings. It's a good substitute for the hamstring curl machine that you would find in your gym. And then this is just staying at that top position and pulling the band apart from there. Again, you shouldn't feel that in your low back. It should be all glutes. Of course, you can just do some regular squats. And then if you have a nice heavy thick band, maybe this deadlift variation would be good for you. Even if you only have light bands, it's good to floss that movement anyways. And you can work with the tempo with this exercise and with all of these. The slower you go, the harder it will be and the more you'll engage your muscles. And there's my kitty saying hello. Thanks, guys.